We are in 1905, and many of the nurseries that grew flowers and plants had state-of-the-art equipment. Wind pumps supplied all the plants with water, and the greenhouses were heated with hot water boilers. These ultra-modern facilities supplied fresh flowers to the first florists in the cities and ensured the boom of flower shops at the beginning of the 20th century. Probably the most ambitious and enterprising of all florists was Max Hübner. And this same Max Hübner was to have a groundbreaking idea. Hübner was what is called a lobbyist today. He took care of the affiliation to the professional association, exhibitions to popularize the art of flower arranging, the recruitment of new members for the young association, and the import of cut flowers during the winter months. In addition, he was committed to uniform apprenticeship training. Unfortunately, the outbreak of the First World War put a spanner in the works of his plans. However, Fleurop's history did not let this event stop it. Soon after the end of the war, things started to look up again. Flowers were in and welcome. Hübner's pioneering spirit led to groundbreaking ideas in order brokering, and so it was born the Fleurop Code. Max Hübner developed the first telegram key. Abbreviated Latin terms were used for the code. The Golden Twenties had dawned. Lush floral decorations stood for the lifestyle of high society. But while the ladies and gentlemen of the Golden Twenties danced the Charleston and wore hats with floral ornaments, modernity had not yet really taken hold in communication. Before the name Fleurop saw the light of day, people spoke, not very affectionately, of the Blumenschenken Vermittlungsvereinigung, which means Flower Donation Association, a terrible tongue twister. But this was soon to change. Like many Germans today, Max Hübner was drawn to Switzerland, or more precisely to Zurich, where he fell in love with a Swiss lady called Clara Krämer, who also owned a flower shop and worked as a florist. On March 25th, in 1927, he then achieved the Great Coup. Max Hübner was elected first president of the European Flower Donation Agency, a tribute to his 20 years of lobbying work. And on this day the term Fleurop appeared for the first time, a contraction of the Latin words Floris Europae, flowers of Europe. And in Switzerland as well, he worked intensively to expand the flower business. Hübner was to carry the Fleurop idea out into the world for the rest of his life and until his death in 1951. But once again, Europe and the world were shaken. The Second World War was approaching, and good business was no longer possible. Vegetable farming was more important than selling flowers. But while the Association of German Flower Shops was dissolved, Fleurop fortunately retained its independence. So the brand was crisis-resistant even then. And the type of communication also tightened up. Here's the German equivalent at the time to today's Fleurop news. A propaganda poster urged flower shops to actively promote Fleurop. But the war years passed. In order to boost international business after the Second World War, the Worldwide Interflora Inc. was founded in Copenhagen in 1946. It was a merger of Fleurop for continental Europe, the Interflora British Group for Great Britain, Australia, New Zealand and South Africa, and FTD, Florist Trans World Delivery, for North and South America and Japan. Finally, the business and the flower agency flourished again. Technology made its entrance. This picture shows the first hard drive in the Fleurop headquarters in Berlin, which was highly controversial because of its high price. Nothing but miracle years followed. The economy grew and Fleurop grew with it. In 1952, orders and sales were up by 40%. And having reached this point in history, one could truly say, an idea conquers the world. And advertising was also intensified and in a state of flux. The female world of feeling was the focus of Fleurop advertising in the 70s. If the 60s still had something nostalgic about them, the following decades paved the way for a new, colorful world. Customers became more demanding and quality conscious. In the 70s and early 80s, so-called Fleurop hostesses were employed in Germany. As ambassadors of the Fleurop idea, they were supposed to convey modernity and lifestyle and were not to be missing at any trade fair, press conference, or flower ball. But it was also a time of change. Computers became affordable and were no longer the preserve of large companies. At that time, no one could have imagined how much the dawning of the computer age would shape and change consumer behavior. Yes, and with that we have already arrived in the modern era. From then on, computers and then the internet determined our business. We still have memories of the first Fleurop webshop in 1996. In the early days, it generated just one order per day. In the meantime, the internet share at Fleurop Switzerland has risen to over 80%. Great importance was attached to keeping the shop modern and following the current e-commerce trends. Many years have passed and the development has continued. Today, of course, Fleurop.ch shines in a completely different light than it did in 1996. Modern fonts, shiny product photos, and of course lots of images ensure that our customers feel at home on the webshop, can immerse themselves in the world of flowers and stories, and, most importantly, send a floral greeting to their loved ones all over the world. We are in a time of the most modern technology, an unparalleled variety of media, and of course, not to forget, a time in which social media dominate our lives. A time in which we believed, until 2 years ago, that nothing could shake us, and that we had an answer for everything. A time when the next Instagram post was more important to some people than a good conversation between friends. Isn't that kind of irony of fate? Because with the corona pandemic, we were partly prevented from meeting our best friends and even family members. The exchange shifted strongly to these very digital ways that we ourselves have built up and by now almost glorified. And suddenly, loving gestures and the joy of living things, such as flowers, are suddenly gaining in importance again. And that put our network and our brand at the forefront. Because brands create stability in the crisis. Brands can convey this feeling of security and trust. Fleurop is such a brand, charged with the most diverse values such as tradition, innovation, and joy. And last but not least, it harbors an exciting and long history that will live on for a long time to come. Because with flowers, Fleurop connects people with people, anytime and anywhere, in first-class quality, creativity, and with exceptional service.